This is a tutorial to help you complete the translation for the story Disloyal, Tarpeia. When I read a Latin sentence, I like to look for certain pieces of the sentence first before I start to do any translation. One of the first things that's most important to do is to make sure that you know what all of the words in the sentence means, and to make sure that you're only looking at one sentence at a time. Let's start with the first sentence. Antiqui means ancient. I'm finding all of these vocabulary words on the vocabulary list that goes with the story. Every word in the story is on that list, and you are provided with the meaning of the vocabulary word that makes the best sense in the sentence. Now you need to understand that just because you know what the vocabulary word means doesn't mean that the vocabulary word will retain that form in your translation. For example, to live is what this word means when I look for it on the vocabulary list. But this is a verb. I know it's a verb because it has this to in front of it and then an action after it. But in a sentence, I very seldom will translate a verb to live. Like it always has a person or people doing that thing. So I have to keep that in mind, that the form that I see the word on the vocabulary list may change. Like, for example, a noun is singular on a vocabulary list, but it may be plural in a sentence. The next thing that I like to do is I like to be able to find the verbs in a sentence. I've already done that, habitant. And again, if you don't know what a verb is, look for to plus the meaning of the word after it on the vocabulary list. And that's how you know you're looking at a verb. I also like to look for prepositions. On a vocabulary list, a preposition will be followed by either plus ABL, which stands for plus ablative, or plus ACC, which stands for plus accusative. So when I see a Latin word on the vocabulary list that has one of those two items after it, I know that I found a preposition. When I look at the vocabulary list for Disloyal, Tarpeia, I see that prope has plus ACC after it. That means that it has to be followed by a noun with an accusative ending. How do I know what an accusative ending is? Well, I'm going to have to look at my noun notes at the accusative lines on the chart to see what endings are accusative. Once I know what the accusative endings are, I can look at the word that comes after it. Notice that romam ends with am. That tells me that these two words, prope romam, are a prepositional phrase. That just means that they have to stay together. So I know that in this sentence, somebody is going to live somewhere, and the somewhere that they're going to live near is Rome, because prope romam means near Rome. So that means that the rest of the words in the sentence tell me who is living near Rome. Just use each of these words in the order that they come, and you will know who is living near Rome. Now let's take a look at sentence 2. The first thing I notice as I read sentence 2, Sabini et Romani hostes sunt, is this semicolon. Semicolons tell me that I have an end of an idea. So I'm not even going to look at the whole sentence. I'm just going to look at this part of the sentence. I know that this word is Sabines. This word means and. This is Romans. Enemy. And this is the word are. You don't see this on the vocabulary list. You see sum esse on the vocabulary list, which means to be. And you have to remember that you have a chart that has all of the forms of to be on it. Sunt is one of the forms of to be on that chart. This is my verb, and I notice that I have no prepositions in the sentence. So sunt means are, and are is like an equal sign. There's something that has to come, a noun, that has to come in front of it, and a noun that has to come after it. So something are something is what this sentence is trying to tell us or communicate to us. Or someone or some things are some other things. So what do we think it says? You'll notice that I have the word and between Sabini et Romani. That means that these two words form the one thing that's going to come in front of the word are, and hostes forms the other thing that's going to come after the word are. So the Sabini et Romani sunt are hostes. That's what that sentence means. Now let's look at the rest of it. Saipe Sabini cum Romanis bellum gerunt. So let's make sure we know the vocab. All right, now that I have all my vocab, the first thing I want to do is find the verb, which is to wage. I don't recall hearing that word too often in English unless it's with the word war. So like you wage a war or you wage a battle. So I'm going to assume that these two words stay together. I also want to look for prepositions. I notice that when I see the word cum on the vocabulary list, it's followed by plus ABL. That means that cum, or with, is a preposition. ABL refers to ablative, which is the inflection that needs to go on the noun that comes after the preposition cum. When I look at my noun chart, I notice that there are two ablative lines. I have to look at both of them for the endings. You should find that you see A, O, and E on the singular ablative line, and IS and ibus on the plural ablative line. When I look at the words that come after cum, or with, I notice that Romanis ends with IS, just like the ablative plural over here. So that's the end of my prepositional phrase. What does it mean? With the Romans. So someone is waging war with the Romans. Who? The rest of the words in the sentence tell you the answer to that question, and they often tell you how frequently they wage war with the Romans. I'm going to clear up some space on my story so I can do some additional writing. In the next sentence, olim Sabini in urbem Romam iter faciunt. Again, I have to look up the vocabulary. Olim means one day. Sabini, by now I know by heart, is the Sabines. In is twice on the vocabulary list. It can mean in when it has ablative after it, but it can also mean into when it has accusative after it. Urbem is the word for city. This is the word Rome. And I have a footnote on interfaciunt, which means march. So this is my action. So who is marching? you might be tempted to say the Romans are marching or the Sabines are marching. This is why it's important to look for any prepositional phrases that are in the sentence. Because when you put words inside of a prepositional phrase, that's where they have to stay. I can't use them anyplace else. So I have the preposition in, and I notice that it's followed by both city and Rome. And I need to decide if they are in the ablative or the accusative case. So I'm going to look on my noun chart. When I look on my noun chart at the ablative, I see the letters A, O, and E in the singular, and IS and IBUS in the plural. When I look at the accusative line, I see AM, EM, UM, even a letter A. And then when I look at the plural, I see OS, AS, and A. So I notice that after in, I see EM and AM. So that's where my prepositional phrase ends. Romam is talking about the city. That's why they both have accusative. And the reason they need accusative is because they come after in, and I want in to mean into. So someone is marching into the city of Rome. Who? There's your answer. And when? There's the answer. Now let's look at the next sentence. Tarpeius dux Romanos Capitolium illo tempora custodit, nam Capitolium est arx Romam. Notice how I took this big pause after custodit before I said the word nam. Nam means for, and it is a conjunction. Also notice that there's another verb after the conjunction for, which is est, part of our irregular verb to be. This means that I have two ideas being expressed in this sentence, and the dividing point for the two ideas is at the conjunction for. That means that everything that comes in front of the word nam must stay together and must express a complete idea. So I'm going to focus on these words first. Tarpeius is a name. Dux means leader. And Romanus is Roman. Then I have Capitolium, which is the Capitoline Hill. I'm told that this phrase means at that time, and this is the verb to guard. So someone is doing this action in the sentence. Someone is guarding something. Common sense would tell me that the hill is not doing the guarding, but that's probably the thing that's being guarded. So who's actually doing the guarding? Well, I have Tarpeius dux Romanus. These aren't three separate people, and I know that because I don't have the word and between Tarpeius and dux Romanus. So the dux Romanus is describing who Tarpeius is. So Tarpeius, the Roman leader. It makes sense that a person is going to do the action of guarding the hill rather than the hill guarding the person. So when I translate this sentence, I'm going to start it with Tarpeius dux Romanus, and then go to my verb, custodit, and then what does he guard? The Capitolium, the Capitoline Hill. And this phrase just tells me when he does that. The rest of the sentence, after the word for, is there to explain why Tarpeius is doing this action of guarding. Like, what makes the Capitoline Hill so special? So I put in the word for, and I have the word is. And is like the word are from up in this sentence. Something is something. So what is what in this sentence? And we're just going to use the word capital line hill. Arx means something like citadel or capital. And this, of course, is the name for the city of Rome. So I can simply say that the capital line hill is the Arx of Rome. And you have to make sure you know what arcs means in English. Now let's look at the next sentence. Let me clear out some of my notes here so I have space to write. So I start the sentence with the word in, and I saw in a previous sentence that in, when it's followed by the ablative, means in. But when it's followed by the accusative, it means into. So it can mean either one of those words. I see that magno and periculo have the same ending on them. That means they should stay together. Periculo is danger, and magno is great. Roma is the name of the city, and of course this is my word est. And then after est, I see the word quod, which means because. This tells me I want to stop. And the reason I want to stop is because the word because is a conjunction. And that means that everything that comes after because is an idea and has to stay together. And it also means that everything in front of the word because is an idea and has to stay together. Because I see plus ablative and plus accusative after the word in on my vocabulary list, I know it's a preposition, and it has to be followed by an ablative or an accusative case noun. Magno periculo, when I look at the ablative line on the chart, does end with an ablative case. But I see this A on Rome, which is also an ablative ending. However, if I say in great danger Rome, I don't really have anything that is something. So what I'm going to do is say that in magno periculo is a prepositional phrase. Those words have to stay together. And then I'm going to make Rome be the subject of is. So just say like Rome is, and then translate the prepositional phrase. I can't use into as the translation for in. A, it doesn't make any sense, and B, because magno periculo is in the ablative case, I have to use the translation for in that follows the ablative case. So again, I would start it by saying Roma est, Rome is, and then finish it by writing down what the prepositional phrase means. So once I know that Rome is in great danger, obviously I'd want to know why. And that's the purpose of having the word because here. What comes after because tells us why Rome is in great danger. The vocabulary that I have in this part of the sentence is enemy, city, and the verb besiege. Besiege has the idea of to surround. So again, this is my action, and that means that somebody in the sentence is doing that action, in this case, to someone or something else. So how do I know who's doing what? Well, I have to look at the words in the sentence that the verb surround is in, and I am enemy and city. So let's just think about this with some common sense. Can a city surround the enemy? Now, we're not talking about the people who live in the city, but we're actually talking about the physical structures that make up the city. Well, once they are built, no, obviously the physical structures don't get up and surround the enemy. So clearly it must be the enemy who's doing the action of surrounding, and the city is what it is that they are surrounding. The city that we're talking about here is Rome, and the enemy are the Sabines. Okay, one last sentence in this last part. Est magna in opia cibi, et magna in opia aquae intra moenia. Now, I do have the word and in this sentence, but I notice that there's only one verb, which is. In a sentence where I see and, but only one verb, and the verb is, I'm not going to divide this sentence into two pieces. I'm going to assume that is the verb for all of these parts of the sentence, and that magna in opia cibi is one idea, like a subject, and magna in opia aquae is another idea, like a subject. I know that they should both function as a subject or come in front of the verb to be because of the and between them. I'm not making them be one in front of the verb and one after the verb. That wouldn't actually make any sense. So magna means great, and I noticed that it has the same ending as in opia. That means they stay together. A great lack or scarcity, and usually when we say that, we want to know what there is a great scarcity or lack of, and that's where the word cibi comes into place, which is food. And then I see magna in opia again, so there's also a great lack of something else, and this word means water. On my vocabulary list, I see that the word intra, which means within, that we are told it must be followed by the accusative case. That means it's a preposition. And since moenia is the only word after within, that has to be the object of the preposition. And this means city walls. So there is something within the city walls. And the magna in opia cibi and the magna in opia aquae is the something that we're talking about. So what is there inside or within the city walls? A magna in opia cibi and a magna in opia of water. Remember that in opia means lack, and that magna means great. So there's a great lack of food and a great lack of water. And if you're wondering where the of comes from, just recall that when we say there's a lack or a scarcity, we want to know of what. So we use that word of to express in opia, which means like to express the word food, which means a great lack of food. And then there's also a great lack of water. Okay, so that's your tutorial on part 1. Hopefully that will help you to figure out what part 1 says. Next we can go on and look at part 2. If you think you've kind of got the idea of it and don't need to look at part 2, by all means, go ahead and skip the tutorial and try to figure it out on your own.